We expect good attendance this morning, but we're going to go ahead and begin with our opening statements because we have a vote scheduled at 11. So hopefully we can complete our work by 11:15, 11:20, and everyone can have their say and get to the vote. And if we don't complete our work and people haven't had their say, well, I'll come back and you can have whatever say you want to have. So we'll do that. I turned around and said to the staffs, Senator Murray's staff and our staff, and I'd say it to yours as well, how much I appreciate their work in preparation for this. This is a lot of work, and it's been going on for about a year. There have been, got somewhere in here, 100 meetings. We've gotten through 50. We will have by the end of today, likely have gotten through about 50 bipartisan proposals, and to be able to come to some consensus about that really takes some skill. So I thank all of you for the time you've spent on that. This is the third and final markup of legislation that's part of our biomedical innovation, or probably it's easier to call it our cures agenda. That is our effort to take advantage of this remarkable time in science and enable safe treatments of drugs and devices to reach patients more quickly. Today's markup completes action on about 50 bipartisan proposals this committee has been working on for more than a year. And as I mentioned, we've had 10 hearings, 5 staff working groups that have held more than 100 meetings. When we're finished today, these proposals will together form a companion to the 21st Century Cures Act, which passed the House 344 to 77 last year. And it will be a vehicle for the President's Precision Medicine Initiative and Cancer Moonshot. Senator Murray and I and some of the House leaders met with the Vice President on his Cancer Moonshot proposal a couple of weeks ago. If we succeed this year, I believe it will be the most important bill that Congress enacts this year. And why do I say that? Here's one reason. 6-year-old Californian Riley Rahal has been diagnosed with a genetic disorder called AT. It affects about 1 out of 40,000 or 1 out of 100,000. A bill we're voting on today will support the President's Precision Medicine Initiative to map 1 million genomes to help researchers tailor treatments to genetic variations and find cures for diseases, including rare diseases like AT, and help children like Riley. And her mom says, at the time Riley was diagnosed, I felt more helpless than hopeful. There are no drugs, there's no cure, there's nothing to stop this disease, nothing you can do to save your child. 5 years later, all of that is changing. There's more research than ever. We're closer than ever to clinical trials hopeful. Here's another reason. In a floor speech in 2013, and I really should let him speak for himself, Senator Isaacson talked about battling a superbug himself, an infection that runs out of control and resists treatment by common antibiotics. We're voting today on a bill by Senator Hatch and Bennett to shorten the development of treatments for superbugs. And another reason, a 2012 bill sponsored by Senators Burr, Bennett, Hatch, expedited FDA review for breakthrough drugs. That's been very successful, leading to 118 drugs designated as breakthrough, including 39 approvals, including the first drug, and the President mentioned this in his precision medicine seminar, the first drug ever to actually cure some forms of cystic fibrosis. This committee has passed similar legislation for breakthrough devices. And one more reason, we've heard from doctors, they spend half their time on paperwork, from patients who lug boxes of medical records from appointment to appointment. This committee unanimously has passed legislation to reduce the documentation burden and improve the flow of information so doctors can spend more time with patients and patients can have easier access to health care information, which we clarify that they own. This committee has passed by voice vote or with overwhelming support 14 bills made up of 30 bipartisan proposals, bills that will mean better pacemakers for Americans with heart conditions, better rehabilitation for stroke victims, more young researchers entering the medical field, better access for doctors to patients' medical records. By the time we finish today, 16 of our 22 members will have sponsored one of these bills. Some of you have sponsored several. Today we're voting on 5 bills, one by Senator Murray and myself to help FDA and NIH attract top talent, Dr. Califf, Dr. Collins says this is their top priority. Senator Hatch and Bennett have a bill to shorten the development time for superbug treatments. Senator Murray and I have one to support the President's precision medicine initiative to map 1 million genomes and make the information available to researchers who will share their research. A bill by Senator Collins, Kirk, Baldwin, Murray, and I that requires NIH to submit a strategic plan to Congress and ensures that scientists are including women and minorities in their research. And Senator Murray has a bill that I co-sponsored to allow NIH researchers to spend more time finding life-saving treatments and less time on paperwork. I look forward to moving all this to the floor. Senator Murray and I are continuing to talk about what I like to call an NIH Innovation Fund. I think we're making progress. It would be a surge of one-time funding for NIH priorities, including precision medicine, cancer moonshot, the Brain Initiative, Young Investigator Corps, and Big BioThink Awards. These would be 5 projects which Dr. Collins has testified are priorities for NIH, which would have a beginning and an end. With its 21st Century Cures Act passed last year, the House voted 344 to 77 to provide $8.8 billion in paid-for mandatory funding to support such NIH priorities. We continue to work to find an amount that the House will agree to, the Senate will pass, and the President will sign. We're not there yet, but we're making, as I said, progress. We've consulted with Senator Hatch, who's chairman of the Finance Committee. I've discussed it with Senator Wyden in a meeting with Secretary Burwell. I've talked with a number of you about your interest in funding for such priorities. I'd like to take the proposals we've passed, I hope we will pass here today, combine them with what we've already passed, along with a bipartisan agreement on the NIH Innovation Fund with Senator Murray, and put them in Senator McConnell's hands as the Senate's contribution to the 21st Century Cures Act. If we complete our work, Senator McConnell has told me that he will put it on the floor. He's not said when, but he said he will. We'll have an opportunity for more debate on the floor, including a proposal by Senators Kirk, Manchin, and Collins to create a first-time conditional approval for regenerative medicine treatments, improving monitoring of medical devices. This is a priority of Senator Murray. It's a top priority for Dr. Califf at FDA. The issue of lab-developed tests, which are vitally important to get right, precision medicine and the cancer moonshot and make them a success. Last year, I believe the most important bill that Congress passed in terms of its effect on the largest number of Americans was the bill to fix No Child Left Behind and affecting 50 million children in 100,000 schools. This committee produced that bill. This year, I believe the most important bill will take advantage of the exciting time in science to improve the health of virtually every American. I think the most important bill that will pass Congress this year, if we succeed, will be the 21st Century Cures Bill. The House of Representatives has done its job by a margin of 344 to 77. The President has proposed his initiative, and he and the Vice President have worked constructively with us, been very helpful, as well as other members of the administration. Today, the committee can finish its work, except for our discussion about funding. I hope we can take both this work and our bipartisan agreement on funding, when we have it, to the Senate floor, conference with the House, and send it to the President. Sometimes we get caught up in bill numbers and sections and back and forth of politics and legislating. But as we finish our work, I hope we can focus on the Americans who will be helped by what we have a chance to do. Children like Riley Rahal, who I mentioned earlier, or let me close with another one, Douglas Oliver, a Nashville resident who last August was legally blind. He had inherited an incurable form of macular degeneration. But today, after participating in a clinical trial where doctors injected stem cells from his hip into his eye, he reads well enough to have gotten his driver's license back, and he reads well enough to read what we're doing and to send us emails about what he thinks we ought to do. It's a remarkable story, but it's just one story, and there are millions of other Americans who could be helped if we complete the work that we set out here to do. Senator Murray.